let's start on the news of the day here. You know, obviously a lot of attention being paid in Washington today to tax reform.
Right.
Real estate seems to be at the heart of a lot of these discussions, or certainly there are some implications for the industry. What do you make of it so far?
So I think clearly the country needs tax reform. Personally, I wouldn't have started with tax reform as the administration has. I think it's very challenging to get done. That's why it hasn't been done in 3 decades. There's winners and losers, right? There's big businesses versus small businesses. There's state versus state. The whole elimination of the state and local taxes, creates this double taxation that kills states like New York, California, New Jersey. So there's a lot of challenges. Frankly, I wish that they had started with infrastructure. And I mean, that really is an investment in our future. And that $1.5 or $1.7 trillion that's going to be used to reduce corporate tax rates to go into our infrastructure, to our bridges, to our tunnels, to clean water, that's something that's going to help us drive our economy. And by not doing that, I think we're really taxing our children, because eventually we have to make that investment. We're living on 20th century infrastructure. So I'd rather tax myself, even though I'd be a beneficiary of this tax reform, than have our children taxed in the future.
So let's talk about infrastructure for a second. You know, that clearly has been something the administration has talked about for quite some time, really almost since day one.
Correct.
Nothing has happened yet. How confident are you that that is still on the front burner or on the minds of this administration?
If tax reform's passed, it's very unlikely that you'll have an infrastructure bill of any meaning, because the $1.5 trillion that's being used, and a lot of the repatriation of the corporate taxes from overseas that's going to be was going to be used to fund infrastructure is going to be used on this tax reform bill. And so it's really making the decision to basically cut taxes today and effectively tax us in the future.
So infrastructure is obviously on your mind because of what you do for a living, but you've also worked on the Port Authority. You're currently on the board of the MTA.
Correct.
What's the state of infrastructure here in New York City?
Infrastructure in New York City is in a dire state. It's been in a place where there's been woeful underinvestment for literally decades after decades, and we're living on borrowed time. So if you go look at our infrastructure, it averages 50 years to 100 years old for our bridges, our tunnels, our water, and so you just at any moment you could see some collapse of something. Whether a tunnel has to shut down, and then all of a sudden, 75% of the workforce that comes into New York City can't get into New York City, or challenges with the water. So it is the economic engine. It drives the economic engine of this city, and it is also the Achilles heel. That if we don't invest in it, the vitality of this economy is going to be challenged.